Hi there, my name is Solomon David and welcome to my YouTube channel where I teach you how to play the violin in 15 easy lessons. What you can expect in this course is the basic fundamentals of violin playing. You'll learn how to analyze music and play sheet music on the violin. What you'll need is a violin and a bow, so do get prepped for your very first lesson. Do like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy. Hi there, and welcome back to another class on how to play the violin in 15 easy lessons. For today's chapter, chapter 9, we will be learning different keys, scales, and of course your music sharps as well. So let's get started. Okay, so if you have your violin out, if you remember in our previous lessons, we covered the first position notes and also the first position with its stickers. So I covered briefly that you do have different alphabets and the note names that we have to do in the first position. With that being said, if you were to look at your stickers, you might notice that there are a couple weird symbols next to the alphabets. So the first one we're going to take a look at is the D string second finger. So you might see that over there it says F and then there's something like a hash. Yep. So this is what we call actually a sharp. So I'm going to put it right there. Kind of looks like a hash, tic-tac-toe. We've got a lot of different names that my students used to call them when they saw it for the first time. So what is a sharp? Well, basically in music, a sharp is actually a symbol that raises a note. So if, let's say, I want a regular F and I want to make it sharp, I'm going to have to move my finger upwards. And by upwards, I mean towards the bridge, the direction of the bridge. So you're going up. So, of course, if you see in the first position, some of the natural finger positions are already going to be sharp, like we discussed in our previous lesson. So another finger that you're going to look at is the second finger on the A string. That will be C sharp, and finally you have F sharp on the first finger on E string and the second finger G sharp on the E string. So the question is, if these are already sharp in its natural position, meaning that when you put your fingers in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you're going to be hitting sharps instead of regular notes. How are you going to make them regular notes? Well, the question is, you just have to move it downwards. So for example, let's take a look at A string. So the second finger, let me put this up real close. If you put the second finger, you are going to get C sharp, okay? And that is the gap that we talked about in our previous lesson. So first finger and second finger is going to be a natural gap there. Okay, but if I want to make it to just regular C, I'm going to just have to move my second finger backwards to this blue line, that blue line over there. So that will make it a regular C, okay? So think about it this way. If you've seen a piano before, violin, we don't have black keys to differentiate natural notes and sharp notes. So piano, they actually differentiate with white keys and black keys. So black keys can be sharps as well. Okay, so in music, we have 7 notes, so we also have 7 sharps. And one way I get my students to actually remember the 7 sharps is to use this sentence, which I'm going to put it right up there. Fat cat goes down and eats bread. So it'll be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and finally B sharp. So there are a total of 7 sharps in music. And this is in general for any instrument, not just the violin. Okay, so why is it so important to actually learn these sharps? Because we have what we call different keys. And you might have heard somewhere before that someone's playing C major, A major, D major. These are all different examples of music keys. So what's special about these keys is that each key actually carries a specific key signature, meaning they either carry a number of sharps or a number of flats, which we'll not talk about today. Okay, so the example that I'll be using is for only sharps. So like I said, there's 7 sharps in music. Fat cat goes down and eats bread. So in different keys, for example, let's say C major. C major has no sharps at all. So if you were to play the C major, okay, you will not be touching on any sharps. So if you do come across an F sharp, like the second finger on D string, you're gonna have to make it just regular F by shifting it down, like I mentioned before, to the blue line. Okay, so what is a formula you can use to actually understand and know what kind of sharps a specific key is going to carry? Simple. I have actually found a easy formula for any student to define and derive the number of keys, key signatures, or sharps or flats in a specific key. So the one that we're going to be using for sharps today is N minus 1. And by N minus 1, I'm talking about N being the key that you're looking for, N minus 1 being the sharp that you're going to take away. So you have to take the sentence that I just taught you, fat cat goes down and eats bread. So let's say we're looking for the key signature for D major. So D is going to be N. And then you're just going to subtract 1 sharp on the left, and you'll take the rest of what's left behind, and it will give you F sharp and C sharp. So F and C is left, so that means that for the key of D major, you're going to have to play F as an F sharp and C as a C sharp. Okay, so this works for any key, major key, that contains sharps. Let's try another one. So just now I talked about C major not having any sharps. So why does it have no sharps? Let's take a look. So fat cat goes out and eats bread. C is going to be N. So N is going to be C, where C major minus 1, which is F, you're left with nothing. That means that for the key of C major, you're gonna have 0 sharps. Okay, so at this point in time, you might be wondering, why do I have to know all this? Why do I need to know sharps, or why do I need to know different keys and its key signatures? And that's because the first thing that we'll be learning today with the violin is called scales. So a scale is actually a fundamental thing that musicians use to practice different notes. So for example, if let's say you were to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, I automatically know by analyzing the score that this Twinkle Twinkle is actually in the key of A major, meaning that there's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So automatically in my brain, it's registered that I have to play all the C's, all the F's, and all the G's as sharps instead of regular notes. So not only does it help you play the music correctly, but also it helps your fingers get used to that movement when you want to get those notes. And the best way to get them is through practicing a scale. So just now when I talked about getting those keys, each keys, they have what we call a scale. So what is a scale? I'm just gonna put it up here so you can see how it looks like. A scale consists of 8 times 2 notes. Why? Because you're gonna go up and you're gonna go down. So if you see the scale over here, the example that I'm gonna use is D major. You're gonna start on D, because it's D major. And you're gonna make your way all the way up to the next D, which is what we call an octave. So it contains 8 notes, octave. So it will be like D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and finally back to D. But this D and that D, they're going to be different. The low D will be the open D, and then the other D would be the third finger on the A string. Got that? Okay, so the scale again, when you ascend, you're going to have to descend as well. So you're going to work backwards this time. You're going to from the upper D all the way back to the lower D, which is the open D. All right? Okay, so we're going to learn how to actually play this scale together. So how you're going to do it is you want to make sure before actually playing the scale, you're going to figure out how you're going to place your fingers. And one interesting thing about the D major scale, like I mentioned before, it has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So if you look back on your violin again, you would see that the second finger on D string is F sharp, so you don't have to do any changes to that. As well as the second finger on A string is already C sharp. So again, you're gonna just put your fingers down in its natural position, following the white dots on your fingerboard stickers. Okay, so once you've got that sorted, you're gonna try and finger them all the way to the top, starting with open D, D1, D2, D3, A0, A1, A2, A3. So you're gonna stop right at A3. So if I look at the alphabets that I'm gonna play for the D major scale, like I mentioned again, open D, first finger is E, second finger is F sharp, third finger is G, open A, A1 which is B, A2 C sharp, and finally A3 D. So that's the D that you're gonna stop at. Okay, let's see how that sounds. Here we go. Open D, D1, D2, D3, A open, A1, A2, and finally A3. Great, so you've made the first octave of the D major scale. Now we're gonna work our way backwards. So again, from the upper D, gonna go backwards now, A2, A1, A open. Now this is a bit tricky, you're gonna have to cross to the D string and place your third finger, because that's the highest note on the D string, and second, and first, and finally open D. So that's how you play the D major scale. So if you notice, I'm playing both on the A and D string. You're gonna play D and A string for basically the whole scale. So I'm not just gonna play on one scale like we did, one string that we did in the finger exercises in the previous lesson. So let's try that together now. If you have your violin, let's try this in the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, open D. D1, D2, D3, A open cross, A1, A2, and finally A3. If you have a bit of distortion, it might be because your bow is not sitting on the correct string. So just make sure that wherever you're placing your fingers, you're gonna have to make sure that the bow is sitting on the same string, okay? So now let's work our way backwards. We're gonna go descending now. So A3, A2, A1, A open, D3, cross back, D2, D1, and finally D open string. So the best way, the best tip I can give you when you play actually these scales is just for your first time, use as much bow as you can, okay? You just want to make sure that at the same time when you're practicing your notes, you're going to practice your tone as well. You just want to go for a good sustained long bow, yeah? Not anything too fast, just try to keep it clear and precise. That is the most important thing to do when you practice scales. Okay, do check out my book, The Comprehensive Violin Method. I do have a couple more scales that you can actually work on besides the D major scale. Do practice, as scales are, like I said, the fundamentals and the bread and butter for any kind of musicians playing. So if you're pianists, if you see guitarists, they all have to practice scales. So do try that out this week, and I hope to see you in the next one.